everyone. Welcome to the weekly show of What is School For? My name is I'm the CEO of Classroom Without Walls and the host of this weekly live streaming show. You can also listen to us on the traditional audio-only podcast. Just search What is School For? On this show, I interview entrepreneurs, business leaders, teachers, parents, education professionals, and students to come here to discuss, debate, and disrupt education with us. The goal is to future-proof the next generation. Today, I'm really excited to have Zach Snyder on the show join me live to talk about his journey as a college dropout to become a very successful entrepreneur, video editor, doing what he loves. And we were chatting right before we went live. I could really feel his passion, loving what he does. So really excited to dive into his journey. As I mentioned earlier, Zach is a freelance video editor. He's a content creator, and he is also featured in the book that my dear friend Julia McCoy and I co-wrote, Skip the Degree, Save the Tuition. And the reason we discovered Zach was because he has a very good article titled Go to College, Skip the Degree. And that article ranked really, really high on Google, number 1 or number 2. That's how we discovered him. So we're really going to dive into his journey, learn the ins and outs, the problems, the issues with today's education. And if you want to become an entrepreneur, is college degree really necessary? And so many other things. And a big shout out, as always, to StreamYard for being a sponsor of Classroom Without Walls. Over the last 4 years, I have tried all the third-party tools to go live. StreamYard is my favorite. In the comment section, there's a link for you to check out StreamYard for free for 2 weeks. Check it out and let me know if you have any questions. And also, I'm really excited to share with you guys that this is the first time that I'm interviewing someone on Amazon Live.
Yay!
So excited because I just became an Amazon influencer 2 days ago. So I'm really excited to try this out with Zach and to go live on Amazon. And you can really catch us live on Amazon by entering, I have this here. So if you just enter Classroom Without Walls .live, you will join us on Amazon. And on Amazon, I actually listed quite a few books related to disruptive education, alternative careers. Check out those books. And besides Amazon Live, we're also live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, on all the channels. So let me know where you guys are joining us live. And without any further ado, Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, really excited. So I want to kick off our discussion by really, I kind of mentioned earlier that Julia and we discovered you through this really incredible blog article. I'm going to share, before I share my screen, I want to ask you, so what inspired you to write that article, Go to College and Skip the Degree? In the article, you did mention that you actually enjoyed college and you actually spent 4 years doing your college education, but you didn't get a degree. That is so counterintuitive, right? You'll be like, what's going on? 4 years, no degree? So share that story with us.
Yeah, so I've always valued education, both from a personal level and from a kind of, I was very happy to graduate high school. I was very excited to go to college. I knew where I wanted to go to college when I was in middle school. I knew which college I wanted to go to. So I was always very excited for the experience. Mm-hmm. And I originally went for a music education degree. I was going to become a music teacher. Music's always been a big part of my life. And when I got in there, I realized there were so many new opportunities in college that I didn't have back home. I come from a low income household, so there were a lot of different experiences that I just didn't get to have growing up. So when I went to college, I had the opportunity to take these different classes on these different subjects that I was super interested in. I started taking Japanese lessons, and that was really cool. I was getting involved in the jazz music orchestra and the regular orchestra, and just kind of all these different things that college had that I wasn't able to experience anywhere else. And when I got to like my halfway point through college, I realized that I didn't feel comfortable, or rather it's super easy to go to college and finish a degree. I feel like it is very simple to take this pre-described plan that they give you, finish these particular classes and graduate. But I'm so interested in so many different things. And as a creator, I started making YouTube videos when I was in like 16 years old. I was still doing that in college. And so I just found my time getting, I was so busy with so many different things, trying to juggle everything, that at some point I realized I don't want to be a teacher right now. That was kind of a backup plan. I wanted to create things. I wanted to start a business. I wanted to do these different things. And so eventually I came to the decision, I think it was the beginning of my junior year, that I was going to finish the next 2 years. I was going to go to the minimal amount of classes that I could to get by. I was going to spend time with friends, work on becoming a freelance editor, try to find clients, do that kind of thing, and really enjoy those different classes and experiences I could. But I wasn't going to get a degree. I wasn't going to finish it, because for my line of work, for what I do as an entrepreneur, and one of the bigger questions that I know that you talk about a lot is, like, do you need a degree to be an entrepreneur? And the answer is, it's no, you don't. And so I just realized I very much more value those experiences over getting that piece of paper.
Wow, like there's so much I want to unpack, but I definitely want to talk about this, right? Like so many people have this perception. Even you wrote in your blog article, you said that you thought that you needed a degree to succeed in life. So now it seems like you are kind of revisiting that statement, right? So you are saying that if you are interested in becoming a creative entrepreneur, like a college degree is not that necessary. I mean, you have done quite a few big gigs. I saw on your Facebook, you shared that your latest big gig was working for Pat Flynn for one of his like YouTube channels, like some project. I'm going to ask you about that later, but that is amazing. So when those people are hiring you for, especially for great opportunities like Pat Flynn, like what are they asking you? Oh, Zach, show me this, and that. So what do they ask you to demonstrate? So in order to get that gig or position?
Well, the big answer is like, it has nothing to do with my college experience at all, right? Like I've never gotten a job outside of college that I said, here is a degree, here's a piece of paper, here's what I did in college. Everything that I do now is solely based on the work that I've done and the things that I've kind of taught myself along the way, which is crazy, because it is counterintuitive to how a lot of people grow up and believe. I mean, if you're going to be a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor, you have to have a college degree. That's necessary. But if you do any kind of creative work, if you're working towards a business, a lot of those things can be done outside of a college experience. And so when I talk to a client, I very much am saying, here's the amount of work that I've put into this. Here's how long I've been doing this. And then here is some of the work that I've done. And I kind of show them some of the videos I've put together or articles or whatever it may be that they're looking for.
I love it. This is what I said. Many people call it the show me economy, right? It is one thing that we're telling others, hey, I'm an amazing videographer. Look at the credentials, look at what I have accomplished. But it is totally another story when we are actually showing people how good we are. So I want to go back to the article. So let me share my screen, because that article ranked, as I said earlier, either number 1 or number 2 on Google. Everyone, you guys should check out the article. It is really, really powerful, especially for young people. I see that Pooja is here. You should definitely read this article. And so here's the title of the article, Go to College, Skip the Degree. And there are so many things you mentioned in this article that really, really caught my attention. And this is one thing, I highlighted this paragraph. You said that in your junior year, you really got to the point that you were so busy that you didn't enjoy anything. And remember, everyone, you were saying earlier that you actually enjoyed, quite a few things. So those fun and interesting classes were just chores waiting to be done. I couldn't make any of my YouTube videos or writing any music. Those extracurricular activities and those clubs, I just stopped going to. I had to drop down from leadership positions. Life sucked. So what happened? Can you if you can still recall the you a few years ago? So what was happening here? So what were the contributing factors to this, from enjoying college, enjoying all the classes, to this state like life sucked?
Well, one thing that I didn't quite mention is that I also deal with a couple of like chronic illnesses. I deal with chronic migraines and headaches on a daily basis. So it is definitely something that's debilitating at times, and it's limited my scope of what I can do on a daily basis. When I went to college and I started being involved in so much, it really started to ramp up those migraines to the point where it caused me to not be able to go to classes and not be able to participate in certain activities. And so that was one of the contributing factors to me realizing that we all have limitations and we all have to work with those limitations. And as a creator, as someone who wanted to become an entrepreneur, I knew that by continuing down the path that I was doing, trying to do everything in college and trying to do what I was doing on the creative entrepreneur side, it just wasn't going to click together. And so that was kind of how I realized like things were really tough I couldn't do everything, and nobody can do everything. Right. But it was tough. It was tough for sure.
That's for sure. I love this comment from Dan. Thanks for joining us, resonating with what you said earlier, Zach, knowing what he knows now, and would have had a lot more fun in college. And then like being so focused on a specific curriculum and predetermined path. So I loved how you were taking Japanese classes, all those really fun classes. And another thing that really caught my attention in that blog article, you were saying that as a creative person, you want to just kind of wake up every day and start creating, which I love. I could really feel the passion. And you did mention in your blog that you actually realized that college is actually making you become less creative, which actually reminds me of a NASA study. I don't know if you're familiar with the NASA study. So what they did is that they asked a group of kids, like, how many ways can you think of using a paper clip? So they discovered for the 4 years old and 5 years old, they can think of hundreds of ways. So they scored 98% in terms of creativity. But as they become older, become more educated, they received more schooling, that number dropped to 2%. They actually become less creative. From 98 to 2%, that's a huge drop. So
that's
I'm
crazy.
curious. Yeah, I'm curious to hear your experience. Why did you think, or why did you say that college actually makes you become less creative? What was the reason behind this decrease in creativity?
I think a big part of it was just lack of energy, right? I was doing so much. I was going to so many classes. I was part of my music fraternity. I was doing work study jobs. I had a lot going on. So when I went back to my dorm room, like I wanted to just go to sleep. I didn't really want to do anything else. But the other thing is like a systematic issue, I feel like, with education in general, not just university, but public schools as well. I feel like a lot of the pre-prescribed, education routes that we're kind of taking on are they don't leave a lot of room for creativity. It's very much, you do your math, you do your English, your social studies, your science. It's all very important. I believe in it. I still very much am interested in history or science or math. Outside of college, I'm always constantly learning. But I think as a kid, and even when you get older, we all have these natural curiosities and school doesn't quite allow you to explore those as much as most people would like.
Mm.
And I think that's rough. Yeah.
I think that's such a great point, and I think that is a problem. A few days ago, we were listening to NPR, and they were saying that last year, and also right now this year, because of COVID, and students, they lost that like artificial control, right? School tells you what to do, go to sleep, time to use the bathroom, time to eat, time to take a break. And when all of a sudden that external structure is now there, children, they felt so lost. And I think that's kind of what you are saying here, right? Because everything's pre-planned, you don't have to think, right? I think that's why I have taught students who enjoy so much of being a student, right? Perpetual students, because everything, you have an advisor, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, graduate. So it is really, really interesting. And that is not what you are looking for as a creative entrepreneur, right?
Exactly. I think that, there's kind of like 3 types of students. And it's a spectrum for sure. But I think there are people like me who are creative and who want that creative outlet. And sometimes school can get in the way of that. I never had issues with school growing up. I mean, I was a straight A, B student. I did my work. I went home. I got my homework done. It was very much that cycle, like you said. Like I was able to do it, and then in my spare time, I would listen to music, read books, draw, those kinds of things. But then there's a lot of students that get left behind too, right? I mean, you look at research when it comes to neurodivergent students, something that we didn't have research on until the last 15, 20 years. There's so many atypical students that just aren't able to catch up just because we didn't know that there was a spectrum back then. And it's rough because we have this one size fits all education when it clearly doesn't fit everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And my husband and I, we actually homeschool our kids. We can definitely see like one of our kids, like, one is at technically first grade, but he's doing second grade math and but like first grade literature. And we have another one in fourth grade, but doing fifth grade literature, third grade math. So like every kid learns very differently. It is so important kind of to customize that journey. So knowing what you know now, if you could revisit that 4 years in college, what would you do differently?
Yeah, so I've thought about this a lot. I definitely would still go to college. I think that there were a lot of great people that I met. I was very fortunate to have a full scholarship. So, I mean, it was a very, very fortunate situation. Like I said, I grew up in a low poverty household, so my parents weren't able to go to, they weren't able to send me to college. So if I was going to go to college, I had to figure out a way to pay it. So that was great. If I had to do it again, I would not choose a major. I would simply just go to the classes that interested me. I would not overload. I wouldn't overdo anything. And then I would start working towards my kind of entrepreneurship goals more in my downtime so that I had, more clients at the very, towards before I graduated, because if I would have graduated, probably not, because I wouldn't have had a major in that situation. Still, it's crazy because leaving college, I only had like 1 or 2 clients that were barely paying me. So I was, for the last like 2018, 2019, and part of 2020, I just barely got through. Like I got my bills paid. Been very fortunate to have a roommate to help rent the house that I live in. So that was cool, but it wasn't until the last kind of year or so that things have kind of gotten a little bit better. But it's crazy because I started doing that stuff while I was in university. And I can't imagine I would have been able to do that if I had tried to graduate at the same time.
Yeah. And thank you for being so honest with us. I mean, like, I feel like entrepreneurship has definitely been glamorized quite a lot, right?
Yes, yeah.
Like nice car, traveling, all those things. Thank you for sharing kind of the more real, the ugly side of being entrepreneur. I mean, the struggle
Of
is real.
course.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a few questions follow up on what you just shared with us. So first of all, like, what did your parents think about this? A very non-traditional path, right? Go to college, but didn't get a degree, and then you're not looking for a job. So were your parents like supportive of you, or what do they think about this?
So I lived on campus all 4 years. So I didn't have to worry about my parents taking care of any of the bills in that situation. I
Wow.
also worked multiple on-campus jobs. So I worked in the library. I worked as a stage manager. I worked in the chapel. I had a multiple kind of like 8-hour jobs here, 8-hour jobs there. I think I worked about 30 hours a week on campus, which was great because some of those jobs didn't require a whole lot of work during that, so I could study or do some of my video editing while I was on the clock for that. As far as my parents, I'm very fortunate. They've supported me along the way. I think it's definitely more difficult for what I do as as a creative entrepreneur, making videos on YouTube for clients and that kind of thing. A lot of things that my parents didn't quite understand. But as I've gotten further into it, they definitely have supported me, which I'm
That's
very
great.
grateful for.
Yeah, I mean, it's so nice to have that parental support because I have interviewed some like parents, and then some of them are supportive, but some of them are not because this is just like so different from the norm, right? So
Right.
we have a great question here from Pooja, who is a very young lady based in India. So she's asking, and how do you really how to really use the free time that you have to become creative content creator? Like she has only 4 months left until she starts her college, and she's going to start her podcast, which is great.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so can you give her some other ideas regarding the free time that she has? I love how she's asking this question, thinking outside the traditional classroom. So give her some advice or tips.
I think what's really cool about going to college as a creative entrepreneur or an aspiring creative entrepreneur is that you do have time in this kind of in between childhood and adulthood, right? Like college, you're an adult legally, but I feel like there are still a lot of responsibilities that are being shielded from the real world. So I think what's really cool is that you'll have any free time that you have during college, you can spend towards learning and growing. That's a lot of young creators, even myself at times, get really focused on growing, getting those numbers, the subscribers, the viewers, the listens, the downloads. But it's really when you're getting started and you're just kind of trying to put your foot in the door, taking that time to really grow as a creator and learn as much as possible. So put out your first 52 episodes of your podcast in the next year, right? Like do an episode a week and try to get better at it. I think that is going to help you more than anything else would.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of podcasts, I can't tell you how much that I have benefited from hosting my own shows. You said that, Zach, before we went live, you said that you have a few podcasts. How many do you have? What are they about? I didn't even know that.
So I have two main podcasts right now. One is called Another YouTube Podcast, where I talk with my friend, and also he's a content creator named Aiden Matthews. We talk about our journey as YouTubers and content creators, and we kind of give advice along the way. And then I have another one called The Come Up, which is kind of my personal podcast where I talk about the ups and downs of being a creator and that kind of thing.
And here's your YouTube channel. Everyone should definitely check out. I watched this video. It's actually very nice, very cute. So
Thank you.
the title of the YouTube is that I'm going to subscribe is Your Everyday Nerd. So check it out. And also, since I'm sharing my screen right now, I encourage everyone to check us out on Amazon Live. You only need to enter classroomwithoutwalls.live. You'll be redirected to the Amazon Live page. And here I actually featured quite a few. Oh, sorry. quite a few different books that can really guide you in terms of pursuing a non-traditional path to become successful in life.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm still constantly like reading outside of school, still trying to learn, new things outside of even my, my own entrepreneurship route.
100%. The
so
best
important.
education happens outside the classroom. So I want to mention that, you started like doing like YouTube videos while you were in college or in middle school. So how did you discover this passion to create? How did you did you just wake up one day, I'm going to start creating a YouTube video? So where did that inspiration come from?
So I've always loved creative things. I loved to draw when I was in like elementary school. I always, my parents played music around the house a lot. I started playing the trumpet in 6th grade, and went down really heavy into the music kind of side of things for a while. But it was around high school. I think I was about 15 years old. I started watching some YouTube videos. It was like 2009, 2010, right when it was just getting started. I was every day coming home, I would end up watching a lot of YouTube videos. I thought I could do that. And so I just kind of barely tried to do it. I had a really bad laptop mic, and my laptop was like one of those very small ones that didn't have a whole lot of processing power or anything. So I made a lot of really bad videos for a while. But the more I did it, I just kind of fell in love with it. It was something that I continued to do when I got into college, and I still continue to do it today. I just love doing it.
Yeah. So where did you learn your video editing skills? Did you just watch YouTube videos to learn those skills?
Every time I had like a question as to how to do something technically, it was always kind of figure out, watch a YouTube tutorial and figure that out. When it came to the more creative side of things, I like to watch other people's videos and figure out what are they doing to make this video special? What are they doing to make it creative? I watch films and TV shows, and I kind of look at the way they edit things and try to figure out how to do that myself. So it's a lot of taking from a lot of different sources and trying to put it into your own stuff until it works.
I love it. And so many people think that, I have to go to a college, to get a degree in order to practice this. So you are totally demystifying that, learning in real life.
Right.
Which actually reminds me of my interview with Shay Robotham. So maybe my assistant can share that interview in the comment section. And so in that interview, Shay said that she actually she's a big LinkedIn video content creator. She said that she actually prefers to hire self-taught videographers than hiring students who actually graduate from school, which is really interesting. And my friend Julia McCoy, she's amazing ICO and content writer, and she shared the same thing. She said that she preferred to hire self-taught writing professionals than college graduates who majored in literature writing, because there is just so much unlearn that people have to go through, which is really, really interesting. So it is really interesting to hear your journey becoming this self-taught video editor. So how did you said that you were having some clients. So how did those people discover you, or how did you promote yourself? So how did you get your very first few clients?
Yeah, so I went to social media. I think it was around 2017 that I was just getting started with. I was watching a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk at the time. I kind of started getting into him. And I was like, I need to start making some money so that I can have the money saved up to rent a house after I get finished with college. Because this was right when I was figuring out I wasn't going to graduate. And I also started watching Roberto Blake. And he had posted something on Twitter one day and said that he needed a video editor and a copywriter. And so I DM'd him and I was like, hey, I could do the video editing. He got back to me a couple of days later, and he already hired somebody to do some editing for him, but he still needed the copywriter. So I did a little bit of copywriting for him. He allowed me to get into the Awesome Creator Academy group. I met a lot of really awesome people in there. And then other clients that I'd found very early on, it was literally going to Twitter or Instagram and searching the terms, I need a video editor or need video editing, and then just like DMing like dozens of people until I got a response back. So it was a lot of that early, just kind of pushing through to see what happens.
But I love this so much. That's exactly what I did when I started my journey. And this is why I'm so passionate about talking about social media, because many schools, I mean, people probably heard me saying this a million times already. I think they have this uneducated fear when it comes to social media, right? Everyone, like there are documentaries about social media, how bad it is. And I agree. There is definitely a dark side. You know, I got bullied. I got like all those things. But on the other hand, there is also a much more positive aspect of social media that students don't know about. Teachers are not actually educating them. But I love how you are using Twitter, Instagram. I use social media pretty much as a search engine. So I love how you are using, right? Yeah.
Right. It's crazy because we're still so early with social media, you know. It's something that a lot of people are still getting used to. And I mean, there are days where I'm like, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to be on social media today. But when it comes to the business side of things, when it comes to connecting with people that watch your content, it is really the best way to do any of that.
I love it. I love it. So here's a great question from Alice. She's a great educator herself. So she asked, do you think growing up with being less pushed actually makes you more than the average person of your age to seek more opportunities? I assume she's talking about being less pushed from the parents' side.
Yeah. I think, is she talking about like growing up with less in terms of like poverty and that kind of thing? I think
sorry. I told you.
What was she saying?
I think so.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Absolutely. No, I grew up, like I said, I grew up with 5 younger brothers and sisters. I have 1 brother and 4 sisters. And we lived in a very small house my entire life, and it was rough growing up. I mean, it wasn't the worst. I did have a good childhood. I do love my parents very greatly, and I'm very, very grateful for all the opportunities that they have given me. But it always did feel like, you know, I went to a school that was considered a Title I school, which means that like 97% of the students there got free lunch. They didn't pay for it because it was in a lesser kind of area in the city. And so kind of when I started learning about these kind of lack of opportunities that people from my income level would have, I pushed more. I mean, I always kind of worked hard in school. I was, you know, I did, like I said earlier, I was like a straight A, B student. I tried to push to do, I did like some high school classes in middle school. I did some AP classes in high school. So it was always just, how can I get to the next step? How can I get there sooner? How can I get there better? Because I didn't know if I would be able to get those opportunities any other way.
Yeah, I love this. It's such a great question. I think one problem with kids nowadays is that they have so much, they don't really appreciate things as much as I used to when I was a kid, because we don't really have that much. So when there is an opportunity, you're like, yeah, a classic example, I'm an immigrant. I grew up in China. So when I first came to the United States, I was like, wow, there are just so many opportunities to earn scholarships, to study this and that. I was applying like crazy because in China, we didn't have any. And my advisor, they were like, are you okay? I was like a hungry person who had been starved for like years. I was like, I got into like all those like Yale scholarship, all those things. It was crazy, but I so agree. Whereas when I was looking at my peers, like, they don't really care. They are not as hungry as I was. So I love that. I love that student. Such a great question. Yeah. And also I shared earlier that so you have been having some of those like big gigs, and so your very latest gig was working for Pat Flynn. I mean, like I feel like everyone knows Pat Flynn. So if you don't know Pat Flynn, you should definitely Google him. He's an amazing content creator, digital marketer, podcast host, and millions of followers and fans. So how did that happen to you, Zach? Share that story with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have to talk about another video editor and creator named Dan Norton. I've kind of known him since around 2017 as well, from that Roberto Blake Awesome Creator Academy group. And I have been doing kind of smaller gigs with him, kind of like LinkedIn video type stuff, since 2017. And around the past year, Dan came to me and another guy named Jason Liebs, and he was kind of like, hey, Pat Flynn is in the works on this new channel. He's going to be doing a thing with Pokemon cards. And I want to try to help him out and get that started. And so we got started on that right at the end of 2020, right at the beginning of 2021. And the channel's just exploded. It's absolutely insane. We're putting a lot of effort behind the scenes into making the videos as great as they can be. But Pat is also coming in with this kind of cinematography that's not seen in the Pokemon card community at all. So it's already at like 30,000 subscribers, over 2 million views in just like under 4 months, which is insane.
That's
but
incredible.
It's been a really cool opportunity to work on that.
That's really incredible. Like how those opportunities just like actually came to you. And do people actually, even with working with Pat Flynn, who is probably one of the top 5 marketers in the globe, I have so much respect for him. So did they actually look at you like degree or like credentials? I guess another question, like in other words, is do you think not having a degree is actually putting you into a disadvantageous position compared to those who actually do have a degree, especially when it comes to working with high profile people like Pat Flynn?
I mean, not at all. Like me having a degree or not having a degree has not helped or disadvantaged me at all in anything that I've done post-college, which is, it's crazy because when you grow up, you hear these things about how important school is, how important that degree is. But when you look at how many people have a bachelor's degree now that work jobs that they were not intending on working, it's insane. And so I'm very fortunate, and I'm very happy that I've been able to kind of cultivate these skills in the background, because those are the things that have gotten me these kinds of gigs and that have allowed me to work with these incredible people.
Yeah, I love it. I think that gives hope to many people out there. Like I feel like my students feel like, at least the students I talk to, they have different categories. I don't even know how many people are thinking about content creator as a new career. I was actually reading a LinkedIn post they posted by a professor. She was teaching marketing, and she said that her students asked her to offer a course on YouTube. Like, we want to become a YouTuber. Can you teach a course on YouTube? The professor, like, first off, is not allowed. And second off, she was like, I don't even know about YouTube myself that much. So it is really interesting how students are having this desire to pursue newer majors and degrees, but the traditional curriculum, school-based curriculum is not there yet. Yeah, it's really interesting to see that. And I love this comment from Mike. Thank you for joining us live. And he said that he's one of those professors who is not afraid of social media. That's amazing. We definitely need more people like you, Mike, because 2/3 of the schools I work with, I'm only speaking from my personal experience, and 2/3 of the schools I work with, teachers I work with, they are just not embracing social media the way they should, and to empower students regarding social media the way they should. So kind of going back to your journey as an entrepreneur, you have those amazing, Pat Flynn gigs, millions of views, all very good. But can you also share with us some of the darker side? You talked a little bit about that, the challenges. So what are some of the challenges of being a freelancer, like being an entrepreneur? If you don't mind, share some of those challenges with us.
Yeah, of course. So coming out of college, like I said, I only had a couple of gigs that were really small paying. I think I was making maybe $500 a month towards the end of college, going into real adulthood, right? So I'd started moving into a house with a roommate, a great friend of mine from high school. And I just was trying to see if I could find some new clients and make sure that I could keep the bills paid. And I mean, there were months where I had to ask my roommate, I was like, hey, I can't cover everything this month because of this, that, or the other. We had a big family kind of incident happen at the end of 2019 or 2018, I believe it was. So not long after I had finished up college, and I was kind of excited to be this, entrepreneur, do my own thing. That incident ended up costing me money, and ended up costing me time. I went into debt. So it was very much a thing that I'm still kind of paying for now. But things are much better. Things have gotten improved on that front overall. But it's definitely not all easy. It's not all glamorous, like you said, to be an entrepreneur. I think that if you have the opportunity to go back and live with your parents while you try to get this thing started, go for it. I think if you go into college knowing that you want to be an entrepreneur and you're able to use that as a buffer time, like, do it. There are a lot of different ways that you can make this kind of path work for you. And everybody's not going to be equal in those regards.
Yeah, I love that. And so even in like tough situations like that, have you ever thought about, wow, I'm going to give up on entrepreneurship. I'm going to start maybe doing a more like conventional path and like monthly stable, secure income. So have that thought ever occurred to you?
I mean, there are times where I thought I should probably get a part-time job, or there might be a better way to make this happen, but I never even once thought about quitting it. And even when I remember I applied for a job during that situation with my family. I applied for a part-time job because I was like, I need the extra money. And the interview had gotten there, and I had like a client video done, like due the next day. So I had to stay up really late to get that done. So I just was like, I'm not going to the interview. I don't have time. So I always like found a new solution. I think that's what's really cool about this entrepreneurship thing is that you can find solutions that aren't conventional. Like there was a moment where I was getting paid a certain amount per video or a certain amount per project. And one of the things that I realized is that if I packaged my services as a service, rather than I need to, kind of do this one thing per paycheck, then I was able to make more money that way, but also it was more consistent. It was more secure. So retainers, I mean, a lot of people know about retainers in the business world. And so that was kind of like a big solution to a problem that I had. And it's a lot of little things like that. Which is really cool.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great tips. And so here coming from Alice again, higher education, I think education in general must do a better job in terms of understanding the needs of the students. And I think we were talking about different career options. So knowing what you know, because we have a few educators here. So what is a message that you would love to share with educators, especially people who are in higher education? They are actually cultivating and preparing the next generation for a future that is constantly changing, right? Like how many educators know that, like some of the strange positions that I'm thinking about some of my entrepreneurs, there's what they do is just like, I was like, wow, I can never imagine a student tell a teacher like, wow, I want to do this as a career. But anyway, so share from your perspective, what do you want to tell to educators?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my long-term goals is to actually work with some educators because education is still a passion of mine. I mentioned earlier, I wanted to become a music teacher. I still have a passion in that. I think the biggest thing foundationally is to support your students no matter what. No matter how well they're doing in the class, no matter how engaged they are in the material that you're teaching, you can still be a great teacher and help push them or nudge them in the right direction. Because I know that by personal experience, as I was kind of making these different choices in college, I had a couple of professors that I'm pretty sure looked down on me. I felt that kind of, that disagreement, that disappointment, because I wasn't going to their classes. I wasn't doing well. And obviously a lot of that is on me, and I take full responsibility of that. But I remember having conversations with a professor one time, and I was like, there's this music concert that I'm going to be going to. So I'm going to be missing class for it. I'm a music major, and I had a teacher that was upset about that. And I was like, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, totally.
So I think as creators and as entrepreneurs, when you're in that student role, there are going to be a lot of different things that are going to tug you outside of the classroom. So if you can be supportive of that student as they figure out what their path is going to be, that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to help.
Wow, that's such a great point. That's such a great point, because I myself probably also guilty of doing that a few times. And I also, I hear that frequently from my professor friends, like skipping a class is like one of those crimes, right? You're not supposed to skip class. But I think we need to think more creatively and critically about that, especially consider the students' major, what they want to do as a career, how much can they learn by going to a concert versus sitting through a class. So that is such a great point. I also think, besides, I know teachers have so little control over this. I think the overall education system needs to encourage teachers to do more professional work outside the classroom, so that they do not lose touch with reality. They actually know what is happening, and they can bring in the latest perspective into the classroom. I think that is important. Leaders need to see that. Yeah.
I mean, you talked about social media earlier and how important it is. I think it's important to everybody. Not just creators or entrepreneurs, but teachers should be able to brand themselves well on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn. Doctors, there's I don't remember his name, but there's a famous YouTuber that's also a doctor, and so it's really cool that he's able to kind of use social media as another outlet of helping people and expressing himself. I would love to see systematically some kind of way that being an entrepreneur and being a creator was more in touch in the overall kind of curriculum, rather than just something that you got to do outside of school because it's not in a syllabus.
Oh, I love that so much. And that should be part. When I was applying for promotion and tenure, it was definitely not considered. But I think that should be, right? Imagine all the teachers having their own podcast, do a live show, bringing all the connections. I myself, before I resigned, I browsed so many internship opportunities for my students simply because of the podcast interview I was doing, the brand I was building on Twitter. I love that. So powerful. Thanks for sharing, Zach. And here is another great question from Michael. And he said that most of his students are actually adult learners. So they are kind of maybe more conservative. So do you have any thoughts on how we can actually target this group of people to help them become more courageous to pursue the new careers, to see the new way, as opposed to be scared of the new way? Great question.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I think it's I would say trick them a little bit. And what I mean by that is tap into that natural curiosity that all of us have and find out what those adult learners are interested in, and find a podcast and tell them to go listen to this podcast. Download the episode, put it on, send it to them in an email or something so that they can get it and they can listen to it. And I think you'll be surprised that if you're able to find podcasts or YouTube videos or a written article or something that those people are interested in, they're going to start looking for the next episode of that podcast, or what else is that person that made that YouTube video? What else are they creating? And eventually, I think that there are ways that they could end up getting more involved in social media, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just there are some schools, they just completely ban access to social media. I think that's just like
Yeah.
being so scared. And if you are scared, we're also sending that message to our students. So it's definitely, it's not good. So I love this comment from Phil. Thank you for joining us live. Sounds a little like how more and more people are adjusting, advising against hourly billing, but rather pay by projects. That's what I do. I don't know what you do, Zach. Like, I don't like to do hourly project. I only do that for friends. Like they only need me for an hour, but normally for clients, I charge per project. How about you?
Yeah, I charge per project, and sometimes I'll charge monthly. I really like to do like a month's work of videos or podcast episodes or whatever it is I'm editing for them, because I feel like not only am I able to provide more to them, because when you're on an hourly billing, you're kind of limiting what you can do within those hours. But then also that way they can trust me 100% too, because no client wants to see a gigantic list of hours that you supposedly worked and they think that you didn't work that many, when there are some projects where I end up putting overtime into them, and there are others where it doesn't take as much time.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not a video editor, but I feel like especially for doing editing, there are probably times that you are thinking about how to edit that video when you are taking a shower, when you're walking the dog, or that is work, right? Like I think charging per hour is just like it's not a fair way to evaluate, to even recognize the work that you put into a specific project. Yeah. So we are just wrapping this up. What a great conversation. And you kind of mentioned this a little bit already. I wonder if you can give some advice to young people out there who are interested in becoming entrepreneurs. So what are some tips that you can share with those people?
I think, grand scheme of things, like just go for it, right? Like, put in the hours, do it, create 100 YouTube videos, put out 52 episodes of a podcast in a year, write 100 articles. Like there's so many different ways to express yourself creatively on the internet now, that a lot of those things are going to put you in front of opportunities. Like that article that I wrote 3 years ago allowed me to be here today. So it's really, that is the biggest thing. And then more practically, I would say really hone into the things that you enjoy doing the most, whether it's a skill or it's a hobby or it's an interest. I think all of those combined make up who you are as an individual and what you can do creatively and what you can do as an entrepreneur. I started getting really into watching films like 2 years ago, and just this morning I took like this really funny little editing bit from a film that I watched a year ago and put it into a video, and it works. So it's like there are so many different interests and hobbies that you may have. At some point it's going to come up, and at some point it's going to help enhance whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, I love how hard you work on your passion, work on your dream, and just like stay focused and listen to your heart, listen to our God. I think that is a great piece of advice. And you have a fellow jazz fan in the audience, Miles Davis poster.
Yes.
I recognize that until I saw Phil's comment. So yeah, you guys should definitely connect, music fans. Yeah. Awesome. Anyway, so share with people, and where can people learn more about you, follow you, check out. I already mentioned your YouTube channel. Everyone should definitely follow him on his YouTube channel, and share with us some other places where people can connect with you, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. So the link that she has on the screen right now, solo.to/Zach Snyder Prod, is kind of a catch-all link. It has all of the different projects I'm involved in. You can also just go to ZachSnyderProductions.com, and it's the same thing. But my main YouTube channel is what I'm really trying to work towards. I do kind of comedy reviews on different kind of nerd culture things like movies or books or TV shows, music, that kind of thing. I run a podcast called Another YouTube Podcast, where I talk about my journey as a creative entrepreneur and kind of give similar advice to what we talked about on the podcast. And then I do live streams on Twitch. I kind of do it right now. I'm doing a 3-day-a-week schedule where I switch between a lot of different video games and talk to the audience. And if you've seen Twitch streams, you know kind of how that works. But I'm trying to make things consistent. It's hard, but I've got my hands on a lot of different things.
I think you're being very consistent 3 times a week streaming, and that's a lot. I only go live twice a week. I know how hard it is. Like it is like lots of hard work. Yeah. But if you enjoy it, it's a totally different story. Yeah. But anyway, thank you so much for this great interview. I also want to remind everyone, I'm going to share my screen one more time to check me out and follow me on Amazon. So I'm still very excited about becoming an Amazon influencer, going live on Amazon. So if you watch me on Amazon Live, and depending on the guest, I share relevant stuff in this little teeny tiny store that you can check it out. Some of them are offering discounts. So here with today's interview with Zach, I share quite a few different books that will make you think twice about education. So definitely join me there. So the only thing you need to do is to follow Classroom Without Words.live. So when you enter that, you will be redirected to my Amazon Live page. So check it out, and everyone follow Zach. And thank you so much, Zach, for a great interview. I just love stories like this. Yeah, honored to have you being featured in our book and all those things. So thank you so much, everyone, and for joining us live, especially some of you watched us live on Amazon Live. Really excited to see you there. Thank you so much for the support, and have a great weekend. I hope to see you again next Friday or Saturday, same time, same location. Bye, everyone.